Viva Real, Real Estate for the Americas, where we interview local market experts. Today I'm with Ben Vaughn. He's a real estate professional in Uvita, Costa Rica. Ben, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Brian.
So, Ben, tell me a little bit more about how you ended up in Costa Rica and kind of what you do out there.
Okay, we came down, family of my wife and 3 children, one who was an adult, and her husband, so there were 6 of us. And I get asked that a lot, why did you move to Costa Rica 10 years ago? There weren't really a lot of people moving, certainly into the southern zone of Costa Rica at that time. And what we had in mind was pretty much just broadening out our horizons. We had a beautiful home and life in Aspen, Colorado. I was in the art business, had a nice home, good job, friends, family, the whole bit. So we weren't running away from anything, which is what a lot of people wonder, right? And but what we were doing was trying to go to something good, just something different, mainly. It didn't even have to be better. It just needed to be different. We wanted our children to be bilingual and bicultural. It was extremely important to my wife. And so it wasn't even really that much of a conversation. It was just the thing to do. And I chalked that up to being tight, just maybe an old hippie mindset or something, but it just made a lot of sense at the time, and we haven't looked back.
And so why did you guys choose Uvita, or why are you living there now? Tell us a little bit about the area and what makes it special.
Okay, we really didn't want to move into an enclave of expats, so we moved into San Isidro del General, which is the largest city in the southern zone of Costa Rica, about 35 minutes inland. And we just immersed ourselves in the culture and language for the first 5 or 6 years. And it worked. My children were used to the fairly affluent sort of lifestyle of the Aspen, Colorado Valley, and which was some of my concern, actually. It was one of the things I did sort of want to get away from, although I didn't mind them being exposed to that, but I did want them to see other aspects of life. So when we moved down into this area, they immediately started making friends with neighborhood kids and getting invited over for sleepovers and so on, and they would go into these homes where there's 4 kids sleeping in a double bed and that sort of thing, and they saw that these kids were happy, and it was just a whole different lifestyle, and it did pretty much what we had hoped it would do. It did broaden out their perspectives and viewpoints on life.
Great. Now, we talk a lot about real estate. You're a real estate professional. That's kind of your area of expertise. For those buying Costa Rica real estate, what would you say is the most common mistake that people make?
Well, the number one thing that I have to deal with is that usually people come down here, they know that there's a lot of beaches, world-class surfing, big ocean views, and so on, and frequently they want to live on the beach. In this part of the world, you don't want to live on the beach. One of the beauties of this zone that we're in here is that the mountains come right down to the sea here. It's kind of like a Carmel, California area, or Big Sur right along in there. And the nice thing is that you frequently do have to 4-wheel drive home, but right from the coastal highway you turn inland and drive sharply uphill, and you get to like right now I'm sitting at my home looking out over the ocean. I'm at about 1,000-foot elevation, and I could hop in my car and in about 10 minutes be to the beach. So anyways, the main thing that I usually have to deal with is that people may come here with a California beach or Florida beach in mind, where they want to be right there on the sand. And here you don't want that, because it's pretty warm down there and it's a little bit buggy, and there's also some legal issues about being right there next to the beach in a zone, a 200-meter zone called the Maritime Zone. So fee simple titled property inland just a little bit with the ocean views and a lot of breezes. The house I live in doesn't have any air conditioning and doesn't need it. We don't miss it. You just need the air motion. So first thing is kind of working with people. They really generally will have their hearts set on being right there next to the beach. And after being here for a little while, they find out that's not the case and make that adjustment pretty easily.
Before we started talking, I was on your website or your blog, Guys in the Zone, and I found it as a pretty good resource. Tell us a little bit about what yodeling naked is.
Well, it made for an awfully catchy title. I've gotten, in the few days since I posted that article, I've gotten a lot of feedback from it. It's just one of the qualities that people look for. There's a number of, like a checklist of qualities that affect the value of a property, and the little known but very relevant point of being able to yodel naked on a property. It's in everybody's minds. They just haven't quite put it that way. Most of our properties here are pretty large. A small property here would be a 5,000 meter or acre and a quarter lot. And in the States, I had a half an acre lot out in the country, and I remember thinking that was pretty big by comparison to my neighbors. But here, an acre and a quarter would be small. Many of them are 3, 4 acres. I live on 7 acres here, and you can go out in your birthday suit and give a good yodel, and you don't worry about the noise attracting any onlookers. You got a lot of topography and trees and so on blocking the way and even absorbing the sound. So that would be the ultimate private ranking that a property would have, is yodel naked.
I like that. Well, we're really authentic with, authenticity is really important for our interviews. And, speaking of authenticity, I hear some background noise there. And tell us a little bit about what that sound is. For those, it's not an interference by the phone. It's rather a different nature's noises. So what is that?
Well, it's dry season here, and in the dry season, these cicadas come out, and the cicadas are a little scarab-looking thing. They have a beautiful transparent lace wing and sort of an iridescent green body, and the birds love them, and my dogs love them as well. They're pretty tasty. I've actually been tempted. Well, no, let me put that differently. I've considered. Fun to see. Well, the dogs chow down on them. But anyways, they're just out there in the trees. So my home is located in the jungle throughout the day until the sun sets. That's a constant background noise. It's kind of a white noise. It's not, after a while, you just don't even really hear it.
Sure. One thing that kind of comes to mind is, can't help but pick up a newspaper and read about kind of the economic challenges in the United States and really worldwide. How is that affecting real estate in Costa Rica? Well,
the jury is kind of out on that, Brian. I frequently defer back to, before being in Costa Rica, I was in the art business in a rather high-end art gallery, and I was in that business for quite a while there, and I went through Black Monday in 1987 and also the Persian Gulf War, and just sort of certainly a nationwide, if not a worldwide, emotional down, if you will, sort of a depression in that way. And in the art business, we really felt it to where no one was buying art. Art must be the most delicate barometer of the economy. But one thing I always noticed was that even in the down times, the really good stuff, the Picasso Cubist oils on canvas, the Chagall gouaches and things like that, always had a buyer. It didn't seem to matter what the economy was doing. I feel like I've found something similar here. These are all one-of-a-kind pieces, and they're amazing and they're desirable. And because of that, I think we're somewhat insulated we've certainly felt the downturn in the economy here. But lately, I think that we're seeing it's sort of ramping back up again. Prices have come down here a little bit. There's been people out there wanting to buy property. The inventory is getting better because of motivated sellers, people needing to sell a piece perhaps that they hadn't ever intended to sell, and perhaps letting it go at a little lower price to stimulate the sale. And so there's a lot of people out there who are probably just now getting over the emotional hit that came from being informed by the media and by the data that the economy is not looking good for the year 2009, but it's been around now for a few months, and everyone is perhaps looking around and realizing that they're still here, still alive, it hasn't killed them, and they still have money. So we have a pretty desirable product here. So the short answer is that we have felt the economy, the downturn in the economy, but we're still doing business. So what's going to happen next, I don't really know. I kind of think it's going to just do a gradual increase now as people kind of settle into the new world that we're living in.
And for those people that actually do want to invest in real estate in Costa Rica, how do they normally get their money into the country?
Yeah, they usually do a wire transfer, and there's some pretty creative ways to do it. For instance, right now Canada is being adversely affected by the exchange rate. And I just found out about a website the other day, and I'm sorry I'm not able to quote it for this interview. I would be able to provide it perhaps for your blog. You can post it to the show notes. But anyways, it really helps with countries that have an unfavorable exchange rate coming into this U.S. dollar-based business that we're doing here. Now Costa Rica has its own currency. It's called the colon, but it's all based on the U.S. dollar. So if there's exchange rates to consider, there's some workarounds that we're starting to use with U.S.-based business clients who are buying and sending money down from the States. We just do a wire transfer, and there's there's a fee involved with that. It seems to range between $45,000 and $60,000. Now, just to carry on a little bit with that, the process of buying a piece of land here, you secure a piece of property with a 10% deposit that accompanies your written offer. That 10%, we've been able to pretty much come up with that using people's credit cards by walking into a bank and just doing a cash advance on that credit card. So the 10% is usually done without a wire transfer. It's usually done with credit cards, or the bulk of it is done with credit cards, and then they'll go back home and within a week wire transfer the amount down to flesh out the 10% deposit. And then a closing will follow usually about 30 days later, and that's when the majority, the 90% remaining, is wire transferred down with that fee of $45 to $60.
So I'm going to go ahead and wrap up, Ben. Thanks a lot for being on the show. It was great insight about the local market in Costa Rica, and we look forward to having you back.
Thanks so much, Brian. It's been a pleasure to be here.